Hey everyone, it's Rob from ProWresBlog here, www.prowresblog.blogspot.com. Hey, today I'm reviewing WWF Superstars of Wrestling from April 28, 1990. This show, it's about like 2-3 weeks out from WrestleMania 6, so, it's kind of the new season for WWF, and they're rebuilding at this time for, basically SummerSlam. So, let's get into the review. We started out with Jesse wearing this really weird Lone Ranger outfit, and Vince said he looked like the deer hunter. Jesse always wore the weirdest stuff. The opening match had the Hart Foundation versus Bob Bradley and Pistol Pez Watley. Pistol Pez is like the secret MVP of WWF Superstars because every time he's on here in a squash, he's actually pretty good. This was basically a squash. That's pretty much all the matches here are going to be. Pistol Pez took some really nice bumps off of a boot from Bret Hart, and he went flying over backwards from a shoulder tackle from the anvil. During the match, we had Demolition come on the screen in an inset. The Hart Foundation had won a number one contenders match, I think, at WrestleMania 6, and so Demolition was going to be the next up. And Axe said, "Talk is cheap. It's put up or shut up. We're going to find out how tough you guys really are." So they were setting that one up, which was pretty cool. And then the Hart Foundation took this one with the Heart Attack in a pretty quick match here. The announcers really did kind of push Bret as like a heartthrob and a solo star, so I found that interesting. We then went to a WWF update with Mean Gene, and they showed a weird interview from last week's Wrestling Challenge with Bad News Braun. Apparently, it was Bad News Brown's birthday, and Mean Gene had a gift for him. It wasn't from Gene, but it was a gift. Bad News was his usual kind of nasty self, and he was being racist here, and he called Gene a sharecropper and all kinds of stuff. And he didn't want to look at the birthday present at first, but then Jake, excuse me, then he talked him into it. And when Bad News opened the gift, he was like totally shocked. And so apparently there was a rubber snake inside. And Gene thought it was hilarious while Bad News Brown was wondering who gave him a rubber snake. And obviously, as I kind of just spoiled it, it was Jake the Snake. And we then naturally went to a Jake the Snake promo. And Jake said, "A birthday should be a happy occasion, Bad News Brown. All I was trying to do was put a smile on your face." Well, happy birthday, Bad News. I hope you enjoyed it. So Bad News was all freaked out here with the snake, and we set up the next feud, basically. We then went to the next match. It was Dino Bravo versus Mitch Ryder. No, it wasn't the Mitch Ryder that you see in Chikara, which I wish it would have been, because that would have been fun. There's a really funny sign out there. It said Canada's strongest man, and it had someone holding their nose with like lots of like stink things around it. That was kind of funny. Dino did some really weird headbutts to the chest of Mitch here, and I never seen those before. And then Brutus Beefcake did an inset, and he said he was focused on kicking Dino's butt, and he actually wasn't focused on cutting his hair. Dino then hit the big elbow, and he took the win with a side slam in his usual boring squash. We then went to the event center with Sean Mooney, and we got a quick Bad News Brown promo. Bad News told Jake that he was going to put his foot so far up his backside that when he opens his mouth, his breath was going to smell like shoe polish. And, just the usual stuff. He wasn't happy about Jake ruining his birthday. And we then went to the Hart Foundation, and Bret said, "There's an old saying, may the best team win. Well, you're looking at the best team right here." And then Neidhart said, "Demolition, we won our belts back." We then went to Rick Rude working out. They've been kind of running this segment for a while now, and he said he was going to be in the best shape and all that for the Warrior, and he said he's beaten Ultimate Warrior before, so he has the key to beat him again. We then went to our next match. They were having an Intercontinental title tournament, and this was one of the matches. It had Akeem versus Tito Santana. Akeem did like tons of weird dancing and stuff as usual, and but Tito held him in holds for a while, and he kind of slipped up a little bit, and he went into the corner, and Akeem threw him into the ropes, and then he ended up getting a flying forearm, and he got sent right out. And surprisingly, Akeem was down, and he got counted out. I really couldn't believe that. I was totally shocked. Slick was shocked too, and it was a pretty surprise ending. And actually, the crowd was totally into it. I mean, they were cheering along, and they were like, thrilled because Tito won this one. So, hey, I guess a count out can work sometimes. The match really wasn't that bad. It was only a couple minutes long, so it didn't have time to be bad. So I'm all for it. I'm kind of a one-man gang Akeem fan anyway, so it worked out for me. We then went to a quick Bushwhackers promo. They said, Rhythm and Blues, when we get you in the ring, you are bloody history. Yeah, it was really bad. And then Dusty Rhodes got on, and he was talking about the Macho Man. And he said, down in Texas, we talk about that kind of royalty as yellow dogs. And he called Macho and Sherry yellow dogs, and he didn't like them attacking him, I think the previous week, if I remember. And Sapphire then came in. She said, Sherry, not only am I going to put yellow dots on you, but I'm going to black both of your eyes, and you know I can do it. And that was it for that one. We then went to another Intercontinental title tournament match. We had Paul Roma versus Rick the Model Martel. Um, Roma actually had the advantage early on, and he was getting a lot on Martel. He threw him into the ring pretty good, and he worked the arm. But eventually he got caught, and Martel worked him over with the Boston Crab and made him submit. They talked about Martel's arrogance mostly through this, and Jesse kept talking about how it gets him all the girls and how it's really so great, and and how McMahon would never get any of it ever. So there you go with that one. And we then went to the Brother Love show with Hulk Hogan. Love ripped Hulk and saying no one loved him, and he was torn and tattered and beaten and all that stuff. And Hulk came out and he kind of just yelled back about how he wasn't. And they started here with the push that Earthquake cost Hogan the WWF title at WrestleMania 6 because he gave him the Earthquake splash. And Hulk said that he was stronger than ever, and he said he wants another shot at Earthquake. The promo and segment really wasn't good because it was just a bunch of people yelling at each other, talking nonsense, and the music was too loud, so I couldn't hear any of it anyway. We then went to an Earthquake squash since he just got mentioned. It was the Earthquake versus Paul Perez. Earthquake got a big slam in here, and he mostly just fooled around with Perez. He then got on the mic on an inset, and he said, I gave Hulk Hogan the Earthquake before WrestleMania 6. I caused him to lose the championship. I'm taking all the credit for that. And he ended up winning with his butt drop pretty quick. He then hit it like 2 or 3 more times, so he pretty much laid him out here. And Paul Perez took the stretcher ride to the back. It was just a squash, nothing special here. It was just over pretty quick. We then went to Tugboat versus Joe Champ. I like that name, Joe Champ. Champ had this really big mullet, and he was kind of interesting looking. Tugboat then did an inset, and of course he did all kinds of lame stuff. He said, all ashore that's going ashore. I'm here to tell all these wrestlers that you better bring your life preservers and water wigs if you don't want to tread water real well, because I'm about to make the biggest splash in the WWF. I'm sure he could have came up with more puns if he wanted to, but I think the 3 or 4 water puns there was more than enough. Tugboat actually looked really good here. He hit a really sweet standing dropkick, and of course he splashed the crap out of Mr. Joe Champ. And then he hit a big Tugboat splash for the win, and he got some nice air on it, and he looked pretty good. The gimmick was obviously terrible here, and it was highly annoying, but Tugboat was super agile here, and he really looked like he was going to be a force. And I can definitely see why he got the push. I just don't think it should have been as a Tugboat. Hulk Hogan then cut a promo, and he said he was reborn and stronger than ever against Earthquake. He talked about an earthquake hitting the San Andreas fault line and how everyone would be devoured in it, but Hulk Hogan would somehow crawl out of it with his Hulkamaniacs, and they'd show that they would bury the earthquake. I don't know. It was one of your usual strange Hulk Hogan promos. Anytime he talks about the supernatural, it's going off the cliff fast. We then went to the Warrior, who said, You, Haku, shall fail this weekend in trying to capture the title. You, Haku, shall fall to the power of the Warrior. We then cut to another Hulk Hogan promo, because him and Warrior were talking about matches they were going to have this weekend. And Hulk said, This weekend, Mr. Perfect, Hulkamania is going to run wild and ruin your perfect record. They pimped an Intercontinental title tournament match next week with Mr. Perfect and Jimmy Snuka. And Mr. Perfect said, Snuka, you're going to find out that I'm absolutely what I say I am. And that's absolutely perfect. And that was it. That one wrapped this one up. Alright, so overall thoughts here. The matches were fine. They were pretty decent for a Superstars, a squash match show at this time. The promos were totally nonsensical, and I don't know, I wasn't really sold on the Bad News Brown versus Jake Angle, but whatever. I can't really recommend it, though. I did think Tugboat looked pretty good, and it was cool to see young Tugboat. But Other than that, yeah, I don't really recommend this. When Tugboat and what's his name? Shoot, Pez Watley are your highlights of a show. You should probably look into things there. So, whatever. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna be signing out here. If you'd like to see this review with pics and gifs, come check out www.ProWresBlog.blogspot.com. All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.